Hello, everyone. It's really exciting for me to be here and talk to you about Flutter. I mean, for me, Android Makers is one of the biggest conferences that I wanted to talk. It was my goal to be there actually this year, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it there because of the coronavirus thing. We are home, we are safe. I hope everyone is at home and safe. And today, I will try to talk to you about how can you add Flutter to your existing applications. So let's go. First thing that I want to mention is, who am I and why do I think that I can actually deliver you this information? Like, first of all, my name is Salih. I'm a Flutter and .gde, and I've been developing Flutter apps since like 2.5 years now. And I'm a senior mobile engineer at a fintech called Klar, and we are doing our product with Flutter, which is a great opportunity for me to use my knowledge into a real product. And Klar is a bank active in Mexico right now, and every day we are adding something new, something exciting to it. So besides that, I love community work. Like, I'm doing everything that I can do in my power to help the communities grow, like mentor people and grow as a whole community, not just like individuals. So what I do is I started a community in Turkey called Flutter Turkey like 1 year ago or so. And our main goal was, so basically, not everybody has a chance to learn and speak English, right? So we want to provide some material in Turkish about Flutter, and everyone will be able to understand and actually do amazing things with Flutter. And secondly, I live in Berlin. I've been living in Berlin since like 3.5 years now, and I'm co-organizing this amazing Flutter Berlin meetup with two great people, and we are like trying to make a monthly basis meetup, and we are going to do both of these meetups online now, so feel free to stop by. Let's continue. I will start with the really quick but important introduction to Flutter. So it's the classic marketing statement that Flutter is Google's UI toolkit for building beautiful apps for mobile, web, and desktop. So our main goal with Flutter is you write the code really once, but you would be able to deploy it to mobile, web, and desktop. I mean, it sounds like a dream, I know, but this is the main goal. What Flutter brings to the table is actually different, because main goal and main objective of Flutter was actually like their main marketing word was like, you don't have to say no to your designer anymore. Because the idea was to be able to create anything that you want and having 100% control over your pixels. So this is what we are going to achieve by having Flutter. But why did I pick a topic like this, right? Why did I talk about adding Flutter to the existing projects? There are like multiple reasons for this. Like, obvious and biggest reason is not everyone has a chance to start the application from scratch, right? Like, not all of us has these greenfield projects going like crazy with the latest technologies and everything. Unfortunately, sometimes we need to make some sacrifices. We need to do some planning ahead. And if we want to try something new, we need to come up with a plan, or we need to at least understand how things work, then make a step out of it. So Flutter wanted to help you with this process. Like, if you sit down, make a research, and you think that, okay, Flutter is really cool, I want to try something new with this, then if you make this decision, Flutter wants to help you out to actually migrate your application into Flutter by having first like two parallel approaches, by adding Flutter as a module to your app, and you can actually have rewriting, or maybe even you can just simply use a Flutter module itself and just have it there to be able to just try it. Or if you want to have something beautiful, you can just add it as Flutter module. So For this approach, Flutter started a project called Add to App. Like it has been there for a long time. And actually, like I made a talk about this in December, and even in December, it wasn't ready. But after Flutter's 1.12 version onwards, with some limitations that we are going to be addressing later on, there. So if you want to try out Flutter in your ongoing application, you can actually have it. And this is today what we are going to learn in Android. So I want to talk a bit more about the Add2App application. Like everything in Flutter, it's also open source. So you can see what they have in planning to work on, or what they're working on, or what is missing, and etc. directly out of the box. Like this title here, yeah, the link is shared to my slide, so you can see it. This title here is clickable, so it will take you directly to the page of the GitHub, so you can see actually which things are open or what is supported and what is not. So you can actually decide for yourself that if you can use it as well. So this is a great thing. Like you have the visibility and everything that you need. Also, since this is open source, and if you think that there are some trivial things that you might be able to help or you might actually fix really quickly, what you can do is you can simply use, you can simply use Flutter itself, and you can simply get this and actually fix whatever problem you have. So this is the advantage that it brings to the table, but obviously we will go deeper than this. Let's continue. So Add2App is a special project, as I said. The idea is to be able to give you a module for your Android or iOS application at the moment, and you can just have this and mount it in your ongoing project, and you can actually use it. For the Android perspective, what you need to do is you will get a module and you can hook it up with Gradle scripts. Nothing fancy. All the things that you have done, if you are like even a junior Android developer, adding this to your project will not be so complicated for you. And we will go over everything step by step together. So when you create your Flutter module, Flutter has actually a command for you to create an AAR file. So you can, first of all, use directly that AAR file if you don't want to bundle Flutter SDK, but you just want to, if you want to use directly Flutter's, directly like this Flutter project, you can have the AAR file, put it in your project, and you will be good to go. And second thing is, you can also use the code base alongside with your Flutter project. So you can actually, you should have the Flutter SDK, and you can actually use this beautiful small features that Flutter brings to the table, like hot reload, hot restart, and so on and so forth. For the Flutter part, they work flawless, perfectly. Like Android Studio is directly actually supporting this. So we are going to see how you can create it by Android Studio. It will help you to create or import whatever module that you need directly. And obviously Java and Kotlin host apps, so we don't care if you have a Kotlin Android app or Java Android app. You can use whatever you need that is useful for you. So let's continue. Obviously, as we said, like Flutter has some interactions with its Flutter platform. So you don't need to but with the Add2App approach, you don't need to create all of these like packages and everything. You don't need to create this involvement with the platform itself. Add2App directly will bundle them and put it to whatever approach you need, so you can use them. So you don't need to create another Gradle script to be able to use, for example, photo picker from your Flutter application. You don't need to do that. All of these things will be directly ported. And after this, just imagine that you have used everything, etc. But how are you going to use it? Actually, Flutter applications are basically wrapped around some activities, which is called Flutter activity, where you can have some screens for with fragments, and you can call them. So whatever the way that you use your activities or fragments, you can use them with Flutter, and you can actually just mount a huge application as a part of the screen directly with simply Flutter fragment itself. So I know it seems like pretty flawless, but it is working like this with Flutter, because Flutter's approach is basically like using building blocks. You know, like you put some stuff and you make a huge build out of it. And if you like it, you keep it. If you don't like it, you remove some stuff and you put more useful things, and it will work out of the box for you. So let's continue. So how do we integrate a Flutter module into our Android project, right? There are basically two ways to do it. First way of doing it is Android Studio, which is the easiest way to do it. We will go over it right now. Android Studio is helping you to just import and add everything that you need without you trying to find your way around, which is really useful. And second way is obviously manual integration. Whatever we added in Android Studio, we will see it with the manual integration anyway. So no need to worry about it. First, we will see the Android Studio, and if you wonder about what we are adding and what is our need for this, we will see everything. Let's keep going. First, Android Studio integration. As I said, it's like super easy to implement, and Android Studio is based on like IntelliJ products. So at the end of the day, when you add the Flutter plugin, you can actually have Flutter support and Android support. So you can actually use an Android, and you can see your Android support and Android code with the Android tooling. Also, you can have Flutter tooling in the same platform. And second thing is, like, everything that you know in Flutter, as I say, is working in Android Studio as well. So you don't need to worry about, oh, what do I do without hot reload? I need to do this and that. Everything works fine. You don't need to care about this stuff. But we need to keep in mind that I'm talking about only add to app approach, like Flutter support is coming earlier, but for the add to app approach, you need to have minimum Android Studio 3.6. And for the Flutter plugin version, you need to have minimum 42 and higher. For seeing Android Studio version, you can just actually use the tooling that you have. I'm using IntelliJ's toolbox. It just shows me the version of it. And for the plugin, when you enter to the plugin site, you can see actually the version of it directly, so you can use it. So as we said, we are going to be showing two ways to implement app to app into our application. But first, let's see how we can create a new module in Android Studio. Like, if you have worked with modules in Android before, probably you know that if you go File, New, and New Module, it will take you to a window. And in this window, actually, you can see something like this. And this something here is going to give you some choices to create for your module. And what we need here is we need to have obviously a Flutter module. So we can either create one if we don't have it, and it will set up everything for us. Or if we create already a module and if we want to import it, it already helps us. We will see how to create a module, and you can just use this button. So right now, for the Android Studio approach, we are going to be learning about how you can create a new module with Android Studio. When you click New Module and click Next, it will directly take you to a page that you can just add the module name and the project and the Flutter SDK, etc., and description. So everything that you need to do to create a module. Once you add this stuff, you will be able to actually simply create a module. But just let's go to the next step. After we create the module, we will be just fine to continue with our application. It will do everything for us. And what it's going to do is it will create the module, it will do the Gradle bundling, and it will do the mount to our project. First, when you open this up, when you click on next, you will most likely not see what you have added, because like most of the Android Studio projects are using Android pane as Android project structure. For seeing the Flutter part, what you need to do is you need to change that pane into the project part, so you can see actually which SDK it is, like how Flutter SDK is added already, or how how the module is already added. Okay. As I said, Android Studio implementation was super straightforward. What we are going to see here now is how we can add a Flutter module via manual integration, because it is not doing everything for us. Like first, we need to create a Flutter module. And for creating a Flutter module, you need to, first of all, you need to direct your Android application that you want to add. For example, if it's at some path, my app, you need to direct yourself to some path. So they need to be in the same level. And after that, what you need to do is you need to say Flutter create the theme module and the organization name, whatever you want to give. In here, we just said com.example and the name of your module. After this, your application will be able to create a module for you. And it will generate a bunch of files for you. And these generated files will be basically your bridge from your application to the Flutter module itself. With the simple one, you have your module directly created for you. But still, we have not added it to our project. We just have a module. If we were in Android Studio, we could just pick the module here and we will be fine. But if we want to make things a bit more exciting, what we will do now is, first, we will be enabling a Java 8 requirement for our project, because Flutter's Android engine uses a lot of Java 8 features, so we need to have that. So for enabling it, basically under the Android block, we need to say compile options, source compatibility 1.8, target compatibility 1.8. I'm sure these are not so unfamiliar to you, because I know, like, I have an Android background and I know that these are like super common things that I already added to my projects in my career before. So let's keep going. Now we gave the Java 8 support, which is perfect. And as I told you before, we have two ways to add our module to our project. First way is generating an AIR, and secondly, using the source code mechanism. First, we will see how we can generate an AIR and use it. Let's continue. Like, first thing that we are going to do here is we are going to create an AIR file with the Flutter command that we already have. This will create a generic local Maven repository with AIRs and POMs. So everything that you would be needing to actually have a, so to say, library will be generated for you. You can even put it to the remote repository as well and just direct yourself to it. So what we do here is, first we direct ourselves to our module. As you remember before, our app was at some path, my app, and we have created a module at some path. And our module name was my Flutter. And what we do here is we do Flutter build AIR. Nothing fancy. We just want to create an AIR, and we say Flutter build an AIR for me. That's all. And this is how it works. So when we have this, it will create some like files for us in a way that you see here. And with this way, you will have, as I said, like POM files, AIR files, etc., with the versioning and everything that you have within with the metadata that you need. you will have different versioning as well, like for release, profile, and debug. So everything that, as I said, everything that you would be needing to use these as a library will be created and generated for you. So you won't be needing some like Flutter SDK to be able to use this. Let's continue. For using it in our application is, you will have obviously multiple ways. In a scenario that you have it in the local, first you will have your path as a Maven URL. Or if you don't, like if you have it in another like provider, you will be just using those providers. And secondly, you will add this as a dependency. So in here, it's like debug implementation. If it's debug implementation, use the debug AR. If it's profile, use the profile one. If it's release, use the release one. So this is how you use the AR version. You just created it with a simple command. You just add the path of the data, and afterwards you put the like organization name and the module name, and just whatever version you want to use. What I want to show you here is like exactly how easy it is. Like all the installations or all the implementations in a super complicated project will take like 5 to 10 minutes maximum if you take the manual path. If you do it the other way around, and if you just decide to use Understudio, it will take even less time. So let's continue. We learned how to use this. We learned how to do it as an AR. We haven't learned how to use this. We will learn it later on. Right now, we are just integrating it. We will not we will cover it in a few minutes. So let's assume that you have a source code that you want to develop alongside with your application. Like, as I said, if you want to have a rewrite version of whatever you have, you will be able to actually use this source code approach. Let's continue how you can do it. Like, I'm assuming that you created your module as we described before. And keep in mind that for AAR, you don't need Flutter SDK, but for this, you need a Flutter SDK. So when you run your module actually in your IDE, it should be able to work fine. And after this, what you need to add is, first you need to add this set binding, new binding Gradle, this line. And afterwards, what you need to do is, as I described before, when you create a module, it generates a lot of files for you. And you need to add this include underscore flutter.groovy file in your Gradle. So it will be able to evaluate that file and use it. So this way you will be able to reach out to the packages. This groovy file is doing tricks for you to be able to actually add new use the Flutter project itself. So this will be evaluated by the Gradle build from your host project, and it will be able to understand what your modules are doing. So let's continue. Last step here is actually after adding everything, after seeing everything, what you need to do is you need to add your module as a project. And since if you let's go back. If you want to change the naming of something here, if you want to change the naming of your module, or if you want to have multiple Flutter modules in your application for a reason, you can use the host a project name property from Gradle properties, and you can actually add multiple different Flutter modules to here. But if you don't change that property from Gradle properties, you need to add it as Flutter, as you see here. So I in here, I didn't want to change anything. I just want to keep everything as it is. And if you want to change it in a way that is more reasonable for you, you can do it by just changing it in Gradle properties. Now that we have added this to our project, everything is in the right place. When you run it, it doesn't crash, but it doesn't do anything because you don't have any connection from your application to your Android app. So this step will be for you. This step for actually creating a real communication from the new Flutter module that you created into your Android app. So how you can, for example, to simply open the app or like communicate. So what we need to do here is we need to understand that applet module uses a lot of special classes like Flutter activity, Flutter fragment, etc. And these Flutter activities, Flutter fragments are doing a lot of work for us behind the scenes. Like they decide which was the entry point for our app, or how can we create a new engine and use it, and so on and so forth, or what was the initial route of our application, etc. All of these are customizable, yes, but these things needs to be used to be able to understand how to start Flutter activity. So for this reason, if you're, again, like even if you're a junior Android developer, you would know that you need to register your activities to call it from one to the other one. So this is what we're going to do now. We are going to say io.flutter.embedding.android.flutter activity should be called. And you can change the theme according to what you need. You don't need to put it. But if you want to have a customized theme, you can have a customized theme for it. You need to put the config changes into the control of Flutter. So that's why you need to put this orientation, keyboard hidden, etc., everything, and they should be neglected. And what needs to be done is you need to let the control, and you need to give the control to Flutter, because every control that you see here can be happening from Flutter's side. And just keeping the state, and all the operations are happening in the Dart level itself. So you don't need to care about orientation changes or everything. It is already taken care of for you. Now we have added it. It's perfectly fine that we have a Flutter activity running. Mainly, most likely it is called main activity, but as I said, like each Flutter project has a wrapper Flutter activity around it. So you will most likely have one Flutter activity, and this one Flutter activity can be called in multiple fashion. So let's see the first way of doing it. First way of doing it is pretty straightforward. Flutter activity.create default intent. This will be our context. Create default intent will be creating our default intent to open the current Flutter activity that we have in our module. But we need to keep in mind that this, as I said, this Flutter activity will get our initial root as the default, which will be base root. So if you want to land in a different page within our Flutter application with a different root, we need to make a different way out of it, right? Because this seems like it is giving us an only option, which will be the starting point of our application. So let's try to see how we can do it. What we can do is we can say Flutter activity dot with new engine. So you need to provide an engine to this. And after you provide an engine, you need to change the initial root. And it will build the intent for you when you call the build method. So this will take you to a page directly called my_root, which seems like, okay, everything is going fine. But as you see here is, we have something called with new engine. Flutter comes with Flutter engine that is doing most of the hard work happening behind the scenes for Flutter itself. And running that engine is not a trivial task to do. It requires some time to start that engine. what we can do is we can have actually a pre-cached version of engine that is already started, and we can use it. So for using it, we will see what we can do. You can pick whatever the convenient way it is for you. In here, we have picked the application class, and this application class basically will be creating the engine. So it will be called only once when the application is created. You can also have your entry points changed here, but I will talk about it in a few minutes. And you can say, you can define an engine ID and create a cache. So this way, if you call an engine with an engine ID, and if it's already started, you don't have to take care of anything. And let's continue. First, after you create this approach, what you need to do is Flutter activity dot with cached engine, because you have a key for the cached engine, and you will use that key to reach out to that engine and use it actually to build your intent. And this way you will have like faster opening time. We will see it in a few seconds. This is the part that I was talking about. When you use the cached engine, there's one thing that you need to keep in mind, that you can't, unfortunately, like have a dynamic version of your routes. So once the application is created, you need to give the initial route to it. If you have like multiple approaches and some things depending on the route, then you need to somehow find your way around it and make a bit of hacking. But right now, initial route is only supported when you use the caching engine by setting up the initial route in the position that you created. So it's not mutable once you assign it. Let's continue. So this is what I wanted to show you. As you see here, I click on this button. It takes a bit like 2 seconds or so to start the page without the engine caching. But if you go to the next one, did you see how fast it is? Like, let's see it again. Like the wait time is almost 0, because everything that you see here is like already cached and already started. And it doesn't need to block your screen for actually starting your engine. You can have your engine as long as your app lives. You can destroy it, and you should be destroying it because we are good citizens. We don't want any leaks happening around our application. But once you use it in a smart way, you can see how effective it is. Like this is without the cache. You wait at least like 2 seconds, and this is the like super fast. Cool. I want to show you the iOS approach as well. I'm not able to give it in detail, but as you see here with iOS, it is also working just fine. When you open up the app, just click, it opens up the Flutter's Counter app in the iOS way. So it knows the platform and everything, and it comes with view controllers and so on. So you can just use an Flutter app delegate that is provided to you and just actually have it in your project. So conclusion, I will make an honest conclusion. So first I will start with the flaws and missing features. So you can just like when you make your calculations, you can keep this in mind. Like running multiple Flutter instances or running in partial screen views may have undefined behavior. Like, as I said, having multiple Flutter modules in your project might be hard to set up. When you set up, it might behave weird. Also, Flutter doesn't work in the background yet. Like it doesn't support it. Like we don't have the foreground services or whatever it is in iOS yet. So it will not be working in background 100% good as long as you don't implement it properly. Like packing a Flutter library into another shareable library or packing multiple Flutter libraries into an application is not supported. Like it is already hard to pack one library into another library, but with Flutter, it is not working yet. It is still ongoing. And like plugins mostly work, but still some of the, for example, some of the plugins may act weirdly, but I haven't seen this happening. I've used the add to app to create actually a Flutter application out of Android application. So I haven't seen this happening, but this is something that you should be warned. I've seen the first three things happening, but I haven't seen the last two happening. Okay. This is not that. As I said, like everything is open. You can see the issues here that is going on right now and what is like already in the roadmap and how they are evaluated, etc. You can see them directly with the tag. And I also shared the link in the slide as well. You can click it and it will directly take you to the existing apps part. So you can see what is actually problematic. So like this is not a secret like, oh, Flutter is amazing, you should be able to do everything sort of thing. Flutter is amazing for me, yes, but making the decision is up to you, because Flutter is not the ultimate solution for everything, right? It will be problematic sometimes, or it will not just answer you. But with the perfect scenario, with a good scenario, actually not even perfect, that will be more than you need, because it will create a lot of, it will help you to create a lot of beautiful pages and a nice application. I have added some resources here, like most of Flutter documentation, and one talk from me. It was on Defest Istanbul and Defest on Air. It's about add to app. It changed a lot since December, but it is still relevant because I've talked about some also different approaches there, so you can actually see how it works. And yeah, that will be all. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm really, really happy that if I could share some knowledge with you all. Thank you. Now I think I will get the questions right. Can have. Okay, so I will start to answer questions. I will actually move this to here so we can see the questions together. So first question, it looks like you can have a full screen activity in Flutter, but is it possible to have a simple widget in Flutter? I mean, like, let's put it this way. If you mean widget in Android perspective, it doesn't work that way. But if you mean widget in Flutter's perspective, yes, you can even have like Flutter view sort of thing, and you can use it. It's not just Flutter activity or Flutter fragment. You can have Flutter views as well. So it is working as a simple component. Like you can run this counter app as like part of your, like half of your constraint layout, for example. So it will work out of the box. Which one is better for okay, I will go to the next one. Yes, sorry. Which one is better for a production app? Integrating the source code or building a library? So it depends on your use case. Let me tell you how it is. So if you're using your Flutter application, and this Flutter application, if it's not going like, if it's not an ongoing project, you can have it as AAR and you can save yourself and your teammates by installing Flutter SDK. But if it's an ongoing project, definitely having source code helps in multiple matters. So I would be suggesting that if it's already finished, just put the AAR. But if it's like a rewriting happening in parallel, I would definitely suggest to keep the source code. Next question, please. Is Flutter easy to use for building a multi-platform library without UI? or do you always need an activity? And I mean, like, you can use the Dart logic, and like, so it's flexible. So you can have, I'm just like, sorry, I'm just curious about why you don't want to use the UI part, because this is the biggest advantage of it. But if you know Dart, and if you want to use just Dart as the business logic part, you can do it. You don't always need an activity, but I don't think that it's a Flutter app anymore. This is my opinion. Next one, please. Having a small part of your app using Flutter still needs to be bring the whole Flutter framework dependency right. Asking because I think it's fairly big. I mean, yeah, like at the end of the day, you would be like you will be bringing a Flutter module, and this Flutter module will be an extra dependency like the other dependencies. So it is not as big as it is going around. Like right now, I don't know the latest version, but I think they were able to lower it down to even like 4 megabytes or something. I don't know the 100% number. So this is the latest number that I remember. So if I remember it wrong, please forgive me. But this is what I remember. So it is not huge, at least for Android. For iOS, I think it's a bit bigger because of, if you use Swift, it gets a bit big, I think. But yeah, it requires obviously for you to have a bigger app. But like Flutter has some optimization ways to get rid of the things that you don't need as well. So I think you can have a fairly good deal. I don't say that it will not be big, but I think it will be acceptable. Okay, next one, please. If I have my Firebase project on Android module, do I need to configure it on my Flutter library as well? I mean, JSON files? No, you don't need to do it, because I mean, sorry, no, you don't need to do it. The answer is no, you don't need to do it. I think it should work out of the box. Is it also very easy to add a Flutter module into an iOS app? Yes, it is exactly as easy it is. Only difference is you don't have the Under Studio option there, but with the manual approach that you see there, it is how it works. So it is not complicated. It is actually quite straightforward. It looks like you are limited to one entry point to Flutter. So implementing multiple screens that are started from the native app isn't possible yet. No, it is. Like, let's think it this way. You have this box as your Android application, and this card, like this is the bank, this is the business card. So you will enter from this native app into the Flutter, and Flutter has multiple pages. Like from this point onwards, you can just root yourself within your Flutter application itself. You can't see me. Yes. Sorry. Okay. You don't see me what I'm doing, so I will explain it with my words. Sorry. So just imagine that I have one card and multiple post-its. Okay. A card will be native app. From card to the post-it, you can go. And inside post-it, as you know, we have multiple pages. So inside this, you can have multiple, like you can have navigation itself. What I meant was like you can land onto the page that you want. But once you land onto the Flutter, you can go around in your Flutter app as you need, and you can also go back. I will try to switch to my webcam. Can I switch to my webcam? I will stop sharing my screen maybe so you can see me. Okay, let's try it again. Here is your native application, and here is your Flutter application. From here to here, you can go. From here inside, you can have your navigation. It's like this. So it's not impossible. Also, you can go back and go to another page, but still, what I meant was like with the cached engine, you need to make a workaround right now to be able to have the cache engine dynamic routing. Let's put it this way. I hope it's clearer. Next question, please. I think I answered this one. Can Flutter code start native activities? Yes, it can. So let me explain it this way. Flutter has something called platform channels. And platform channels are your logical bridges from your Dart code into your native code. So you can have logical channels to direct your requests from point A to point B. It doesn't matter if it's native or Dart or vice versa. And once you make that call, you can trigger anything that you want or anything that you want to happen. This is how the plugins work most of the time. So once you use actually the camera, what we are doing is we are calling it platform channels, and whatever we receive back a message that is created in a certain position as a file. And yeah, like this is how it works. So you can do it. I hope it was clear. But if you have any further questions, like you can, I think I will stop by the Slack. You can find me on Twitter as well. And I will do my best to express how I can help you as much as possible. I hope everything is clear. Any other questions? I think we don't have, right? So I can stop the recording. So thank you very much one more time. Thank you for being here and listening to me just talk about Flutter. It was really an honor. And I hope to meet you all in person after everything about this crazy pandemic happens. Thank you very much.